Okay, tonight we'll begin with our police department. Chief Daly, welcome.
Welcome, Mayor. Thank you.
John, any preface?
Uh, Can you hear me with the mic? Or is it not on? Very
I
well.
hear you, but not through the mic.
The 173.
Working, John. John, use the,
Is that one on?
that's on.
Testing. Testing.
This budget is divided into two now. We have the police budget, which is starts on page 73 and goes to dispatch and communications, which we broke out last year.
Testing.
And that's on page 75. So at one point, they were combined. Now they're two separate entities within the police department. So when we talk about staffing or anything, there'll be separate issues for police versus dispatch. That's all I have. Chief?
No, no opening statement unless you guys want me to, or...
Okay, quick question. It's kind of a revolving door. I think we're up to 16 female officers.
Yes.
Which I'm very pleased about. I think that speaks volumes about the destination that police department is becoming for women in the profession, and that's great. Except where are we now with FTEs? Because one person hired, two people retire, and I know you know when retirements are forthcoming based on notice, so
Yeah, more retirements are coming. This on? Yeah, more retirements are coming, so currently, we're down 11 officers, so it's a moving target. We have another officer coming off the books, I believe next week, Officer Capiello. Officer Bourne's already off the books. Both very, very seasoned veterans officers, a loss, but kudos to them. And then we hired Officer Donahue last week. So the next opportunity to put people into the police academy will be July in Meriden at the Post Academy, and then August at the LEC Academy up in across from Dodge Stadium. So if we have our druthers, again, obviously if we can find 11 people, we would hire 11 people, but most likely we'd try to direct people to the LEC Academy because it does a better job when you're training yourselves.
okay, thank you. Members, questions? Pro Tem, please.
Hi, Chief. Patrick. Good to see you as always. I just have one quick question. I noticed when we got our budget book, and I see it again today, the escalation for the regional animal control services from what was your original request, which I imagine went back to like October, to our proposed budget. Is there an escalation in the cost of the regional service?
Yes, the cost has gone up. I think our initial 5-year contract is up, and so then renegotiating the rates. And you know, NECOG has been good to us, so I think we've been on the winning end of that bargain. But I think they're rethinking their model.
Well, when you say that NECOG has been good to us, in terms of the level of service, as a chief, you're pleased with how we're being served?
Level of service is always, a concern because people want them to be there immediately. So overall, the service has been responsive, and the pound is well taken care of. There's more officers working than we had when we ran the pound, and the issues with all the state paperwork is being done correctly. So it did do what we hoped it would do. It's just now you're seeing the increased cost.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. John? Go ahead.
Unfortunately, they basically almost doubled the rates. And they have a new director up there that, to be blunt, doesn't think that we're a loss leader for them. They don't cover their expenses. And I covered their expenses when they raised it up to 75 or whatever. I think something of that nature. Not only that, but this is the last year they're going to do it. So we're orphans. We have to find another regional approach. I would strongly recommend that we don't take it in-house again. It's a very costly program to set up. I haven't really talked to the chief about that, but I don't know.
No, I echo that. I don't want to play our hands in case we're bargaining with other towns, but since the city manager brought it up, yeah, NECOG has been open, working with Josh. They're getting out of the business. But for us to take it back on, the manpower costs and the workers' comp costs, I don't think there's a way to even make it. It was a money loser before, and the service wasn't to the level that it should have been. So it's a lose-lose if we do it ourselves. So, again, nostalgia will make us want to do it ourselves, but please don't.
And, so we're set for next year at a much higher price, unfortunately. But then after next year, then we have to start working on finding an alternative soon, because it'll take some time.
Okay. The search has begun. We're, we'll, in discussion with other agencies nearby who operate animal control facilities, and, it's definitely more efficient for them to maybe go up a little bit in staffing and cover our area rather than us start from scratch again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other members? Alderwoman Gould.
Good evening, Chief. My question, in your replacement costs line item and your, well, not so much the overtime, but in your replacement cost line item has been severely reduced.
Yes.
How are you going to meet the needs of your department if you're down 11 officers with $200,000 in replacement cost?
Running short is the answer. We'll be not putting as many officers on the street. Since City Manager issued a memo in January 31st asking for immediate austerity measures. So since then, we have been running one officer short on the shift. If everyone shows up, we're fine, but if someone takes the day off, we're not filling it. So I just brought the visual. This is our shift schedule. We do one per shift. If you see the yellow highlighted, those are days that we've gone without an officer. So we're running one short. So far, last time I got a count, we've been short 84 times. We're trying to make it work. We're trying to do our part. And this is the output of the union, several unions, and the officers trying to come up with a solution to do this. But I would be remiss if I didn't say this was an ideal situation. We were never overstaffed to start with, and there's always impacts from not being fully staffed that will affect in the short term, long term. I can just go down real quick. First and foremost, increased crime rates. If we're not out there being visible or preventing or apprehending people, your crime rates are going to go up. Just overall diminished public safety. People don't feel safe when this happens. Community trust will suffer because the officers will tend to go more to call to call to call. There's economic consequences. There's the cost of crime. When people get hurt or have their items stolen, or we're not able to do traffic enforcement and they have car accidents and insurance costs, there's a cost behind that, just for property losses, healthcare costs, reduced property values, and just lost productivity of people. Increases the burden on all the public services. If we're not able to intervene earlier, it could cause the ambulance to become involved more, the fire department respond to crimes of violence, social services to get involved to try to pick up the pieces. So that is always a concern. And then there's also the impact on police morale and efficiency. When you're going from call to call, it's tough to keep your head up, and then morale begins to suffer because, you don't feel like anyone's caring about it, you or your plight. So there's a lot involved to it. Right now, we're managing it, but it's less than ideal. But I will give the men and women of the police department a lot of credit because we kind of we threw together a budget committee real quick. We started working on this. And we meet probably every couple of weeks just to go over where we stand. But it's not ideal, and if we can't make those numbers, we will leave more jobs open. That's the only way to do it, to make these things. Our line accounts are so small that it's all personnel costs, and it just means leaving more shifts short, and there'll be impacts to it. I would be remiss if I didn't sit here and tell you there will be impacts to running short. Which then, when you start taking it to the nth degree, a large fight breaks out, there's 5 officers when there would have been 6 or 7, officers get hurt, more lost time injuries, and they're out for a significant amount of time, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. A small example is you saw the Mechanic Street fight from last year. That officer's still out. He's been scheduled for surgery, but it hasn't happened yet. So that was in June, so we're coming up on a year, so he'll probably be out over a year. So that is always a concern.
Okay, and so I know that we're not filling 3 positions, I believe. How are we filling the other 8? If you're down 11, what's our recruiting efforts to get those? Because those are paid-for positions.
By the time we get to this point next year is to in the perfect world, we'll have 11 filled. But we realize that we get 2 to 3 at a time. So what our hope is to do the staggering the hiring. So as we lose one, we're hiring 1 or 2, and hopefully by the end of the next year, because the police academy only has certain windows, there'll be 5 windows during the next year, maybe 6, depends how the narrative goes. So if our hiring doesn't align with those, we're not going to be able to get people through the door to help this budget. The officer Donahue we just hired the other day, that was our only opportunity to help somebody in the next fiscal year because the academy is 6 months long, the training and the FTO, they won't be on their own until probably April of next year. So we'll get April, May, and June for fiscal year 26. So it's not ideal, but we'll shoulder through. No one's overly happy about it, but we understand, after the Board of Ed, we're the next biggest agency, and we have to shoulder the burden.
Okay, and the status of the fire boat, how's that?
The police boat?
Yeah, the police boat, sorry.
Police boat is good. We're getting ready to go back on the water. We finally got all the repairs done. There's one more transponder that has to be done. We're working with Josh with some recapture money coming from the engines. Our goal is to have that in the water for May. But again, a lot of those discretionary patrols won't be. If there's an event, we'll be doing it, but we'll either be doing it for earned time off instead of overtime, because you quickly pointed out that our overtime account has also been cut. So a lot of those extras we've been doing. Community events, a lot of community events we've done, we've cut. We got an email today from the Norwich Clergy Association, or a clergy association, about the Stations of the Cross coming up Friday. I said, hey, listen, maybe you do a virtual one on the green, because I can't guarantee you that, because our direction is pretty clear. If there's a community event, we have to charge. And everyone wants to. We always say you can do more or less until you try doing it, and it's a great saying, but it is a horrible way to live.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other members this time? Alderman Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm just gonna switch to capital side. I got my answers on the other side. So you have requested 6 cruisers, right?
Yes.
Are they gonna be replacing the existing one, or these are adding to the fleet?
Replacing ones. We asked for 6, we got 4. Consulting with fleet maintenance, we think we can get Band-Aid through with the 4. So what happens is the 4 oldest cruisers, the highest mileage ones, will be removed from the fleet unless we have a maintenance issue. You know, one of them that is problematic, I guess is the politically correct way to say. We'll cycle that out of the fleet.
And John, good thing. So some of these which have high miles, can they be used by different departments? I know building department wanted some as well.
Some can be. Some can be, it depends on the mileage. What we don't want to do is inherit another problem for another agency. If they're really in decent shape despite the mileage, then we sometimes use it for a low mileage situation in another department. We've been reluctant to do it because we've found that once automobiles reach a certain level that they are, and they're off maintenance contracts and everything.
100,000 miles, not to interrupt, but 100,000 is the danger point for the garage. Everything on the Fords are bumper to bumper till you hit that 100,000. We lost a motor last week that was covered. You know, our warranties it's saving man hours. So if there's cars that have value, the garage will put the feelers out. To be honest with you, they've been really good over the years. There's probably 5 or 6 vehicles that are in the city's fleet right now that are former police vehicles. But I can't say like, those 4 cars can go there because not only may they be high mileage, they may have high engine hours, high idle hours.
Okay.
And that will cause a problem.
Okay. And then, of course, in the budget, we have rescue vehicle. And what is this GPS launcher system?
It's one of the ways, my friends on public safety, we debate constantly on what to do with stolen vehicles and people who don't stop for police. And this is a system that's being used by New Haven currently. Hartford's going online and the Connecticut State Police. It's a GPS launcher. It shoots a canister about this big onto a car and it sticks with an adhesive that you can't get off. So as the car flees, the officer doesn't have to chase it. We have our times when stolen cars come to Norwich, or we have cars stolen from Norwich, and when we try to stop them, they run. But what happens in Norwich and happens frequently is we're behind a car with a person who's wanted, a dangerous person, not currently dangerous, but they're wanted for dangerous charges. So we don't have the ability to chase because they're not actively being dangerous. But with this system, we could track them at a safe distance and apprehend our suspect and also do it in a safe manner. Or a lot of times cars are used in shootings or stabbings and, you know, they take off here and we don't find them for months in the middle of the woods somewhere burned out. So this is our chance to kind of.
And will that system will also be connected with the system of the state troopers and stuff? Because usually they'll jump on highway.
Yeah, they'll jump on the highway, and I don't know if we'll be able to see each other's data yet. If that was in the perfect world, it would be, but I'm not 100% sure. I know we can sit at our computer terminals and our GPS, and we can track it everywhere in the whole country. I don't know if the state police or New Haven can track into our stuff or not, and we got to pick up the phone and tell them to do it. It's a very slick system, and it's a good way to get the person you're after without having to endanger the public.
And we don't have any vehicles with in-car cameras right now?
No, we do. All our camera system does have camera systems as required by state law. Made a business decision to put that off a year to address other priorities in the budget, and then we're going to revisit that next year. So we will be back for that system. Again, what you'd hope to get 10 years seems to be 5 years, and you have to refresh the system. But we're working with Josh. We were kind of kicking around some savings, maybe to buy extra spare parts to keep the systems we have online. So we'll change that next year.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions, members? Chief, then I would ask, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the hand, I apologize.
He had her hand up too.
Just haven't been through this stuff before on the state side. all right? You know, I know it's a little difficult, but a lot of it's attitude too. So although, I mean, you make choices on staffing levels, and the problem is they've been doing things, you know, a certain way for a long time. So I think, although it's difficult, I, you know, haven't been through it myself, and you can make it work to some extent, but there's always, I think you brought up the situation there where you need multiple people. Well, I will tell you, I would have 30 in a, you know, ideal situation, and it's still probably not enough sometimes. But realistically, you're not gonna have, you know, you don't get that, so. I would just say that, you know, try to be as positive about it as possible, you know.
I'll
It's-
just
it's
jump in
not-
real quick. You know, I always tell you how proud I am of the men and women of the police department. I am. We have a records clerk behind us tonight. She's like always in our, you know, back helping everybody out. It's a team effort here. The mere fact we have one of our records people come into the budget hearing because they're concerned about the future of the agency speaks to what's going on there. There's a lot of good things going on at that agency, and that I will not take credit for, but I will point out in 100% of what the men and women are doing here. We had a meeting when the memo came out for austerity. 41 people showed up in person, and probably another 10 on virtually, going over ideas, and we just had that open dialogue and sense that we were getting forward. We're not happy about this, and we don't want this to be the new normal. We want this to be a bump, because we want to do good for things for the city. We want to get out there and be proactive and do everything. But we understand that right now we're in a crisis, and, you know, we have to shoulder our burden. And the attitude of the men and women has been phenomenal so far.
No, I mean, I agree with you totally, because, I mean, let's face it, though, and you mentioned it, you're the second largest budget we got, you know, outside of education, you know, so.
Yeah, we're next year, again, because I'm proud of it, that this is, hey, we get it. I'm not happy about it. I don't want you to think I'm
Right.
here like, you know, high-fiving everybody.
The choices are, look, the choices are just bad,
The
let's face
choices are
it,
bad, but
you know.
the budget we're being faced with next year is less than the budget we're operating under this year, and we had a union contract settle between now and then. So, yeah, the cuts are real. You know, we're looking at, you know, to do like some departments do. Our request was cut $1 million. You know, so we're $1 million off of what we had requested. That's real numbers. That was less officers on the street, and that's, you know, a problem.
I will say, though, that, I mean, you have a reduction in replacement costs of 700,000. That's more than, you know, 1.5 positions, so, I mean, that's quite a bit of coverage, you know?
It's quite a bit of coverage. Like, it's turned out so
talking about.
far, and we may have to reevaluate it as the numbers come in. We sit down with our budget and we're crunching it all the time. Right now, we're trying to do the best we can so we can either not be in the red or turn a surplus in and help somebody else out that can be maybe put toward next year or whatever Josh needs it for. We're just trying to do our part. But we'll be evaluating that on a constant basis, trying to come up with, you know, what's that fine line? Are we spending enough? Are we saving enough? Like I said, we may have to go to on midnights and take 2 shifts. We'll run short, and really evaluate what it is. It's every shift a day. It's like I said, 84 shifts. I think one shift for a whole year it saves like $129,000.
Right.
I've got pages and pages of stats. You know, where we're
Plus
crunching numbers
plus fringe
constantly.
if it's applicable, but,
Well, we're, you know, it's mostly.
Replacement costs you wouldn't be,
Replacement, yeah,
yeah.
we're not getting hit with the fringe on replacement cost. It's there, and then during the day, during the week, right now, we're not filling the supervisor job on the road, 2 days a week.
yeah.
So that's one supervisor. Again, we're all there, but I don't have time to go make sure the guy on Taflocker Road at the private job is out of his car. So there'll be effects there in supervision.
You have 2 sergeants on every shift, right? Or first and second, on days,
We're gonna run with one.
because you got a
But then
lieutenant.
we have all the administration during the week,
Mm-hmm.
there in case something kicks off.
Okay.
But less than ideal. You know, I
Right.
don't think there's a police book in the world that'll ever tell you cutting supervision's a good idea. And again, we got a great department. I don't wanna sound like we're a bunch of problem children, but cutting supervision always, There's a cost and a risk to be run with it.
I agree with you. I'm not disputing anything that you're saying. So but the only question I have it seems to me that, well, I guess all 3 shifts and stuff, maybe we'll get close to that 700, but I think it's going to be
3
less.
shifts a day, 7
Yeah,
days a week.
Right.
Like I said, in this little thing, it hasn't been it's only been probably 40 or 50 days since we started, and we did 84 to probably 90 times. We've done it.
All I'm saying is I'm just concerned that we go too short,
No, because if we're looking, that's why if we look like we're too short, we'll start pulling it off, and then we'll start, trying to find with our stats where we can do the most good. If this day of the week it's a high call volume, or do it.
You've got numbers by time and stuff, I'm sure, and you've got a pretty good idea where your
And there's
call
call
volume
volume, and
is.
then there's critical call volume.
Yeah.
Friday night may only have 10 calls, but they're all serious assaults.
Right.
Versus, a Sunday morning. So we've been doing it. We actually had really good discussions about perhaps even a power shift. If we start having shortfalls, we need to do it, maybe bring back like a 6 to 2. So we have like 2 or 3 guys that come on and cover. And the union's been great. I can't speak enough, all the unions. Like I said, this committee is the City Hall Union, the Dispatch Union, and the Police Union, and myself, and all the division commanders meeting every 2 weeks just to go over what we're doing.
You still don't have 2 dispatchers on, correct? 7 days a week?
No, we do not.
Right. So it's Sunday or?
Weekend days, Saturday and Sunday, and then midnights during the week. You know how I feel about that.
Yeah, we've certainly discussed that in the
Yeah,
past.
you know how I feel.
Yeah.
I won't say anything else.
Well, you know how I feel. Haven't done that, so, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Singh.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question, and I don't know if you'll have answer or not, but how many calls do they even answer, animal control, in 1 year? And do they even work on weekend?
No, they're available on the weekends. Obviously, they're on available second shift, but as far as their calls for service, we don't track that. That's all through their NECOG system. Anecdotally, they were in town the other day to serve a cruelty to animals search warrant. When ACOs do search warrants, that's a rare thing, so it shows that they're providing that extra service. But, I don't, as far as what they do for actual, every day, how many dogs they're dealing with.
They acquired the search warrant? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they did the search warrant themselves. They applied for the search warrant. They did it. We stood by for them. That's rare, very rare for having animal control. They have the power to do it, but rarely they don't.
But can we get that data from them, right? So we can evaluate for how many calls we are paying $300,000, right?
They'll be busy.
One call cost us.
Yeah, and the medical bills, and again, I'm a dog lover. Hopefully my dog's not watching on TV. But the dog bills are very expensive. The medical care for it, the personnel, the state laws on how keeping your pound up to code is very, very intense, and it's not a cheap evolution.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other members, Alderman Nash.
Chief, I don't have any questions. I just have a comment to make, and I want to make sure that you relate this to the men and women on the department. I've been sitting here for a while, and I've served on the PD with Officer DeLucia, or Alderman DeLucia. And I know what it's like to be waiting for backup when you're working east side by yourself, when there should be 2 guys, or west side when you're by yourself and there should be 2 people, or center, when we used to have 3 walk-in beats in a cruiser. Let them know that, and I remember sitting in a cruiser thinking how stupid the council is, not giving us what we need. But just let them know that the council truly understands. And I could see it in your demeanor. I've known you for almost 30 years now, and I could see your chest falling and your head's down, because I can see the stress that you're under and what the men and women are going through.
It's tough, because what you're seeing is, we're starting to get a little bit of interest back in policing. Norwich has been great.
It's
Norwich
so
is a
different
wonderful
today than it was
community.
when we were cops.
I can't speak enough about how positive Norwich as a community to work for is. But, it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Now it's, okay, come to Norwich and maybe we're running 3 guys short tonight. So that's my fear, that it'll hurt us in the long run. Plus, we do a good job of keeping crime out of Norwich. I don't want to see that happen. During COVID, we had a lot of shootings and a lot of incidents. I don't want it to happen, but, it will happen eventually. If this becomes the new normal, those days will return. And I don't want to be like some of our.
Just let them know it's not lip service. We do feel what they're going through. And
I will now invoke a moment of privilege and call on Alderwoman Gould, who keeps having her hand raised, and no one will call on her.
Thank you, Chief.
Talking.
I blame the mayor.
Okay, I want to go back to the police rescue vehicle. What are its capabilities, and give us a scenario when that vehicle would be used?
I'll give you the perfect scenario. When it happened since we've talked at the public safety meeting, a elderly housing complex in Taffville on the end of a one-way street 2 weeks ago, a gentleman had a domestic with his wife. He wasn't there, but he was upset, and he had an arsenal there. He's a convicted felon. He had a assault rifle he was converting to fully auto, 2 or 3 other assault weapons, several hundred rounds of ammunition, and multiple handguns. Now again, one way in, one way out, a position of advantage. Does it sound familiar? Sounds like Cedar Street. Sounds like Storrington Road. We keep running into these buildings that we're supposed to approach with high numbers of targets and get them out of there. This is not a SWAT truck. This isn't one that when we had the marshals in the other day, that the state police picture was on Facebook. This is a commercial chassis. It fits 12 officers. I'll tell you right now, you can get probably 20 citizens in there or 40 kids if we have to. And the thing is to approach a residence under fire and get either wounded or trap people out under fire. And that's the point of the vehicle. Open and shut. It's just, it's not, we'll show it so people see what it's like to, we don't want to have people have angst. The picture, Josh did a great job painting it like a police car. We want it to look like a police car. People who have these, they paint them green or black. I always laugh because you ain't sneaking up on anybody. You park in the woods, you can't find it. I want people to know this is a police rescue vehicle. Get into this. This is help. Help is coming. But we've dodged the bullet, no pun intended, too many times. Alderwoman Hayes and Jackie Owens, I remember the conversation in front of the City Hall Plaza when Officer Leigh was shot and we needed the vehicle in 2012. Hasn't gotten any better. We've had people shot in Greenville. We've had long waits, and we've had people having medical emergencies we can't get to or get in or get out. And again, no one likes spending money. I think everyone knows how fiscally astute I am myself. But sometimes you just have to do it, and we can't wait for someone to come with it. New London just put a Brinks truck into service. What's that capabilities? I don't know. I know what this one's capabilities are, and I don't want to be wrong sitting behind the wheel of the Brinks truck. In this vehicle here, it's a Ford, I believe, F-550 chassis, much more maneuverable than the old vehicle we tried from the government, tried to get going. This has got no weight issues. It's like 23,000 pounds. Goes all the bridges, fits everywhere, and anyone can drive it. So, to be honest with you, if something kicks off right now, the plan we're envisioning is the desk officer would come downstairs, get in the vehicle, and drive right out to the scene. But again, it's in Taffville last week. The one we showed you the video of the shots, rifle shots, pulling up the Storrington Estates was unnerving.
All right, and last question, has nothing to do with the budget. When is the next police station informational? Have you scheduled that yet?
Yes, it's going to be room 335, the 30th of April. This will be the last one. The public who came the first time, and the councilmen who showed up, council people. We had probably close to 40 people the first meeting, so if we can keep that energy, I feel better. So it'll be 7 o'clock, and the meeting after that we'll have at the police station because people want to see the current station. Been a while since people do it. And one of the events, one of the things I'm going to start is how the station failed us this month. You know, like today, we had probably, you know, we had probably 8 people in the lobby, 2 people wanted, 1 person wanted to talk about how their children were taken. Those are all personal things, but everyone just backed up there. Brown water bubbling up from the female locker room. It's bad enough that we don't have lockers for everybody, but you got the brown water bubbling up. So that'll be our new thing, is to show people every month how we're struggling against the building in anecdotal, real-world things. It's like, hey, listen, we had the state police and U.S. Marshals get a very violent person off the street. We didn't have any place to park anybody or plan. You know, everyone had to stand because we don't even have a room to plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? I would just conclude then by thanking you. You were on Stu Breyer again today. You're on every month, and the dialogue and the communications that you're creating with the people calling in, I think, is very beneficial.
Yeah, I think it is too. And again, this Wednesday, if anyone's available, up at Norwich, Norwich Senior Center, there's a fraud presentation done by the Norwich Police, FBI, and pretty much every local bank from 10 to 11:30. We're getting killed with fraud. Killed. Hundreds of thousands of dollars is leaving the city every month. We just have to, you know, go for your neighbor, go for yourself, go for somebody, because smart people are going and buying gift cards and calling in the code. Smart people are going and get large sums of cash and meeting people in parking lots. Smart people are letting their bank accounts be drained because they don't want to upset somebody. We have to stop this as a community.
Thank you.
And what time is that at the senior center?
Senior Center, from 10 to 11:30. So I gave it to Stu. It'll be on our Facebook. We'll post it again. But again, all the local financial institutions have stood tall. They all have reps there to go over their processes.
Thank you. Thank you for all you and your men and women do. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I can't say how proud I am of everybody there and the attitude they have. You know, you said it's not, everyone knows it's not ideal, but. Right?
Nobody likes it, nobody up here likes it.
No one loves it, and again,
It just
let's not
is.
make this the new normal.
Yeah.
A bump in the road, I think we can get through, but we don't want to undo the good.
Thank you, Chief.
Did you want to talk about dispatch?
Oh,
You mentioned that it was separate, and there are some,
budget
there are some things in dispatch that we probably should know.
The main thing in the dispatch page is the dispatch supervisor has been frozen, not eliminated. I think we're safe saying that, John, frozen.
Yeah,
We fought hard to get it in there. Again, not a ideal situation. You know, we talked to public safety as dispatch systems get more and more complex, and we do more cross-jurisdictional between police, fire, and EMS. Having a dedicated member of management in charge of there seems like it makes a lot of sense. So, and again, talked it over with our dispatch union, and since we're short 2 dispatchers, we're thinking that that's more of a priority, is to have the boots in the ground. But there, again, there will be an impact. Right. You know, right now, you know, we're bringing a new CAD system online. There's a lot of technological challenges that, you know, you can't expect a police officer to understand. It takes years to do that, and we just don't have the people who can have a knowledge of police, fire, and EMS, and dispatching, and the technology to make all that magic happen.
Thank you. Members, questions? Alderman Bettencourt.
I touched on this a little bit ago about the round-the-clock coverage. I mean, let's, you know, and we've discussed this at length over the years, certainly as a priority, and I think, you know, as we've gone along, it comes to more and more to light that it's a specific need for public safety to have 2 dispatchers on around the clock.
Absolutely, 100% agreed. That it's
There's no 2 ways about it, so.
Thank you. Other members? Well said. Thank you.
I'm going to start at in the order that they're in the budget. I haven't turned around to see who's here. The first one up would be East Great Plain.
Not
They're
here. Not here yet.
No,
Not here yet? Okay, then we'll, next would be Laurel Hill.
yep.
Okay. Chief, come on up. I don't have anything particular to say. You have anything? Or just take Q&A?
I don't have anything particular to say. If you guys have any questions for me?
This is page 85, if you're hunting for it.
I was more concerned with the capital. So it's, let's start spelling off there. You know me. Thank you. So you made several capital requests, obviously, that didn't get funded. You had a request for, looks like double the number of sets of turnout gear, and you had half of that funded essentially from the looks of it. Is there a specific, was that a specific number? Is that the duplicate set for everyone, or what's the situation with that?
Yeah, so we're currently working with, off the new bid that the city went to. I think there's 5 departments on it now for Morning Pride. And we're currently getting on that in an attempt to get everyone a second set of gear. We're replacing everyone's gear that they currently have. Some of it's 5, 6, 7 years old. And we're going to the new gear with hopes of getting everyone a second set. So that's where the number comes from. So we're just gonna, as we go through this process, we're just gonna keep getting gear for the foreseeable future.
Is the number that you, is this the cost for 10 sets? Is that what it is? Or is that the actual
Yes.
number of sets? Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Other members, questions? Alderman Gould?
Good evening, Chief. Thank you for being here. How's the forestry unit doing?
The UTV itself is doing great. We replaced that with the help of Josh about 2 years ago now, almost 2 years. So the unit itself is doing great. The other things that it needs help, the mount that we have on the back, the pump, is original to the other unit. We just reused it for this one. And the trailer is original for when we bought the UTV almost 17 years ago. So it's definitely showing its age, which is why it's in the budget for replacement. John's doing a great job at fleet maintenance, keeping it going. But it is something that needs to be put on the burner pretty quickly to be replaced.
All right, and are there any grants available that might help us out to get that trailer replaced?
Not for the trailer itself. Most of them are for the UTV. I've tried for a couple, nothing so far, but most of them were for the UTV itself. They don't do any of the accessories or anything like that. It's
Nothing to
literally
transport it, just,
just the unit itself, not how you get it from the station to the scene.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other members, questions? I guess we're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Akam will be next.
'86.
Floor is yours.
I have nothing to start off with, so whatever questions you got for me.
Chief, the number of calls per year, what percentage are highway-based?
That was one question I wasn't prepared for. I would say somewhere around 25 to 30% of the calls are highway.
Thank you. Other members? Gould?
So of the 3 capital requests, 2 have been funded. Obviously, Engine 41 has not been funded. What's the current status of Engine 41?
41's holding together. We've had to make some adjustments on how we put equipment on the truck because there's not much space. Obviously, it was built in 91 for when personnel didn't have to wear turnout gear in the truck. They all shared gear. And the compartment space is much smaller than the equipment that we have to use on scene. So trying to get smart with how we use stuff, that's one of the things, especially storage-wise. Besides that, mechanical, it's been holding up pretty good, but obviously, moving into the future, anything's uncertain. It's 34 years old. It could go next month.
Well, let's hope not.
Yeah, let's hope not. Definitely need it.
That was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members, questions?
I have a comment. Mayor,
Where?
Please, John.
no, certainly if the
No,
council.
no, I was just saying, I was just pointing to you.
As you can see in the Capitol, there's numerous requests for new equipment, rolling stock. And a couple of years ago, we came close to having a replacement schedule all in place for the future acquisition of equipment on a needs basis rather than rotating who's next in the line. That's want to continue doing that, and that's one of the most important things I hope to accomplish with the Chiefs Committee and our new Chief Wilson, to come up with a replacement schedule that is somewhat self-sustaining, that we don't have to bond every piece of equipment. Unfortunately, most equipment now, even minimal pumpers are over $1 million now. It used to be $400,000 or $500,000, not that long ago, really. We're talking maybe 3 or 4 years ago. The inflation on fire equipment is tremendous. So we have a challenge with that, but that has to go hand in hand in what the functions of each department are going to be. That's the trickier part of that. Do we need X amount of pumpers? Do we have too many of those? And so there has to be more, I don't want to say regional, but a district-wide understanding of how we respond to fires and what equipment is necessary to do it. And that connects then with purchasing equipment. So pretty complex, but not insurmountable, and going to be a very important item. Josh and Chief Tracy we had a schedule that we thought would work pretty well, but when it got to the question, we had to reduce our plan had to reduce 5 to 6 vehicles before we could do replacement. And that was an impasse. We could not agree between management and the fire departments, which equipment should be retired. And then we got into a situation last year that we didn't meet for a while because of extenuating circumstances. So it kind of withered a little bit. Now we're reinstituting the discussion. So I thought that was important because if you look at the capital budget, you'll see it. It's in a number of fire departments. Almost all of them are requesting a piece of equipment. It's an important topic that we have to address.
Thank you, John. Members pro tem, please.
Thank you. So John, you just hit the nail on the head. We've had several conversations about this, right? The impasse on what pieces are going to be retired is unacceptable. And we're not buying anything new. I'm not agreeing to buy anything new unless something's going to leave the city. We have 41 pieces of apparatus. We don't need 41 pieces of apparatus. Everybody knows it. Everybody says so. even people way smarter than me. And if you recall, the hoops we had to jump through to replace Squad A also includes that another piece will be taking out of service as well. And that's exactly what needs to happen in the fire service. And that's the way that the members of the fire service need to see themselves, as the Norwich Fire Service, not individual apartments, or departments, I should say. I know that you said it, and I also know what you meant, because we've, as I've said, had many conversations about this. It's not a matter of who's next. It's a matter of what piece most needs to be replaced. And I agree.
get that point.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, and I agree with your point on that it has to be a global view of the entire fire service, and that's what drives what needs to be replaced. Because you hit the nail on the head. We've all had to look at it. You know, the pieces we used to think were expensive now are $500,000 more expensive. And we can't be buying them 3 and 4 at a time anymore. Our city just cannot afford it. Even if other pieces are leaving, even if we were looking at buying 4 or 5 pieces like we did the last time in 2017, we can't, first of all, we can't afford that. Secondly, we still can't afford it even if we're taking 4 or 5 pieces out of service. So whatever the impasse is that you're running into definitely needs to be overcome. Because at the very least, we should not be buying anything unless it's going to replace something that's going to actually leave the city. Not go to another department somewhere in the city, not be hanging around at City Garage. No, we're buying a piece leaves. And and everybody needs to get on board with that philosophy, because the price tag has just gotten too big. And again, I know that you understand this. I know that most of the people at the table understand this, but whoever the hurdles are need to be either overcome or moved out of the way.
Cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to achieve that in the not near future, but in the future. Near will be like next month, and I don't think it's going to be that. I do want you to, if you can find it, there's an article in the New York Times recently that talks about the monopoly that manufacturers have, not just for fire apparatus, but equipment of all sides. And it really is a very interesting article, and if I can find it and get you the citation, I'll make copies for everybody, because it puts it in really good perspective of what we're dealing with that, because inflation in the fire apparatus business is double digit, and nobody is near that, with the exception of some police vehicles now, because there's only 1 or 2 that make them, and we're now replacing a vehicle for $50,000, $60,000 in the police department that used to be, Ford
Crown Vic.
Cruiser, Crown Vic, and would be 25,000, so we're getting it somewhat in the fire, police also, but fire is much, much worse.
Yeah, it has gotten out of hand. Alderman Nash remembers when every year we used to get an entirely new fleet of vehicles every single year. And I said police vehicles, right? And what municipality can afford to do that? Nobody. And you're right, it's because there are a very small number of manufacturers, and they know that they can get whatever the market will bear.
And they do, unfortunately.
Alderman Nash.
I'm glad I heard, and maybe this might be a conversation for public safety, not even a budget meeting, but I'll just throw out, I heard the word globalization, and when I first got elected, Alderman Betancourt sat with me on public safety, and that was the first conversation I had as a councilman was, the number of fire apparatus and what do we need. And I was told back in those days, I'm not a fireman, I'm a cop, I'm a council person, I don't know anything about fighting fires, but I was a first sergeant in an infantry unit, and I know how to deploy my troops. And I know that all we needed to do is sit down and go over a map of the city and deploy our equipment appropriately so that we cover everybody. And I was told to stay away from that. So that's 18 years ago. I remember sitting on the council saying, we need to globalize our firefighting apparatus. And one of the things that I considered a great success at the time was Laurel Hill went out and got a hose tender, because the hose tender could be used by everybody in the city of Norwich. It wasn't just pigeonholed for Laurel Hill. And we got away from that. And as a politician, and I hate the word, my greatest failure sitting up here in all the years I've been a councilman is the firefighting service. We haven't done what we're supposed to do. And it pains me to hear that we had impasses and people disagreeing with stuff. And I don't take anything away from the firefighters. These guys are, obviously many of them are heroes and they do a great job and they risk their lives. But you're right, piggyback off of Alderman DeLucia, we need to get this under control, because I did sponsor a bill that got us the fire trucks that we got, and I put my career on the line saying if it didn't pass, I wouldn't run for re-election, because the city desperately needed it and the citizens agreed. But we can't buy fire trucks by bonding. It doesn't work that way, and we become heavy in debt. So I appreciate everything they did. Taffield did the 3 for 1, 3 for 2, and it was outside the box thinking and stuff. But I tell you what, some of the problems we have is that we have firehouses that don't fit perfect stock trucks. That trucks have to be built specially for the firehouses, because one can't get in because it's too low, one can't get in, it's too long. It's ridiculous. So when the bond came out, I did fight to try to get us to go to one dealer, but that didn't work either. And even keeping the fire ladders on the trucks didn't work either. We argued over chucks, wheel chucks we argued over, because they didn't want to keep the old ones, they wanted the newer ones. And even though that might not be a lot of money, but putting a budget together, if you watch the pennies, the dollars save themselves. So we need to get to where we're watching the pennies. And John, when I sat on the board to get you on, we did that because we knew you knew money. And so we need to get that, we need to use what we hired you for. And it's to get this crap under control, so.
Well, it's been one of my priorities each year.
It's been mine too, and
Since
I
I've
failed.
been here. It's just, I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll be moving in the right direction.
Thank you. Other members have questions for the chief at this time?
If there is one more thing that I will add in, just because of 41, we were talking about it, right? And I'm glad you mentioned the bond. A few years ago, while people may not agree with my predecessor 2 chiefs ago, he agreed that we could save money by not purchasing a new 41, because it still had a long life left in it. That was in 2018, and here we are 7 years later, and I'm hoping that it continues on, but with a new industrial center coming in and the amount of runs that it's gonna start doing, those are things that I need to think about. And I've been the one to also allow the city to borrow 41, leaving me with 1 engine. And if that engine goes down, what's the backup plan? Those are also some of the things that we all need to think about. So future planning is 3-4 years for a new truck. And that's not just me, that's anybody that buys one, right? And John said, back in 2020, the price for a new truck was about $700,000. That same truck with that same spec is now about 1.3, almost 1.4 mil. So as we kick this can down the road, obviously it's going to continue to grow. But whatever conversations had for whatever next truck gets replaced, whether it's me, Yannick, whatever, I hope the same conversation that took place to replace Squad A is the same conversation with that chief to replace their truck as well.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time? Thank you, Chief. Appreciate all you do, all your members.
We'll do, Stanfield.
guess I made it. It was a long drive from the country.
Welcome, Chief.
Good evening, everybody.
John, do you have anything you want to?
No.
No, okay. The floor is yours, Chief.
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to address you guys tonight. We put together what we thought was going to be a fair and adequate budget based on anticipated cost percentages increases. The cost of training firefighters has gone up. You know, when I started, it was $300 for firefighter 1 class, now it's $1,200. I did just get some paperwork from the Fire Commission for distressed communities, but I don't know how long that's going to take to process, so that will get taken care of. Most everything else was basically due to rising costs. We tried to keep it as low as we could. We try to operate it as cost-effective and fiscally prudent that we can. Capital purchase-wise, we did look for the hood system. I did have a conversation with Kathy Austin yesterday, about it, and the governor still hasn't released anything from the bonding commission yet, so that could be a while. SCBA bottles we did put in for. I do have a little bit of money left over to get caught up, but when I started buying SCBA bottles when I took over as chief, it was $660 a piece. There's $15.99 now. I about had a heart attack because we've finally gotten on a rotation that we buy X amount a year. It's a smaller nut to crack versus walking in saying, you know, you need $60,000 or $70,000. We did have a few years where we didn't have to replace any. Now we're getting into the cycle where we got to replace 3 and 4 at a time. So it's a little bit of, I think it's a little easier, and like I said, it's a little softer of a nut to crack to the taxpayers instead of coming in and saying we need X amount of bottles all at once. We're still looking for a parking lot. Turnout gear we're good on. We've got a little bit of money left over from the year before, last 2 years. Obviously, we put in for an SCBA compressor. There was some question last year. The number that we were given of the 149 was a budgeting number from MES. I did talk to John and Josh. They did restore that. The difference is our SCBA compressor is from 2001. They told us flat out that if we have a failure, they may or may not be able to get parts. The difference between ours and the other ones is that we have a whip system, so we can fill the SCBA bottles that are mounted on the tower. They're about 10 feet in the air. That allows us to fill it still on the truck. So that's where the cost increase and the difference was. Same thing with the SCBA bottles on the dive truck. To take them out to fill them, it takes, when we take them out to hydro them, the truck's out of service for 3 days. So, but we're looking pretty good with that. We did put in some money for the roof design phase. That didn't survive, which is, we'll figure something out. We'll make way for that. Other than that, if you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chief. Members? Alderman Nash.
The roof, how much damage is being done to the interior of the building from the roof?
So it's more, the roof membrane is still intact over the side of the parapets, but there's nothing adhesive holding it to the middle of the roof. So we do have, over the years, we've had leaks around the drains, around the sewer pipe. We keep patching them temporarily, but when the wind blows, the entire the roof blows up like a bubble. I've been there for 37 years, and I think we've had the roof replaced at least almost a half dozen times. What I'm envisioning is just, trusses, no storage, just enough to insulate it, nothing up there but void space, nothing will have to heat, no water, no nothing. But again, as we talked to public safety, we're trying to find somebody. Utilities actually gave us, just emailed me a vendor that they use that's on the state bid, so we'll see how that makes out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, members? Alderman Betcourt?
So we're talking about a pitched roof, right? That's just to be clear.
Yep, yeah, like a pitch roof. Nothing fancy,
Right.
Whatever the architect recommends as far as the snow load and everything else to come off. It's just gonna be a gigantic void space. With a standing seam metal roof, that's a guaranteed 50-year roof. So it's not like you're replacing asphalt shingles or, bless you, asphalt shingles or anything else like that. We currently have one on the addition that we put on, and we haven't had any other problems, you know. That seems to be the best way, the most economical way to do it. But again, we'll have to see what the design phase comes up with. And the only other thing we put in for is our parking lot. I've got to have somebody come in and see if they can regrade it, but it's dependent on where you go in the parking lot. When it rains, the water's like ankle deep.
Thank you. Other members, questions? Alderwoman Gould.
Good evening, Chief. Thank you for being here. How's your turnout gear?
Turnout gear is through some savings, and we've gone to an alternative gear for our drivers only, that they're not interior firefighters. So it still meets the NFPA requirements, but it's not to be used for structural firefighting gear. We've been able to buy some of that at a considerable savings. So between what we have for the last 2 years, we do have enough in previous years, so we're good this year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Thank you, Chief. Appreciate being here. Thank you for all your members.
Okay, last would be, at this point, since I haven't seen EGP yet, would be Yantic.
John, any forthcoming? Y'all? Okay. Chief, welcome.
Thank you, Pete. Tonight, I think the biggest thing I'd like to see pushed for us in the capital improvements is our Hertz tool. We've had 2 catastrophic failures with our equipment in the last 2 or 3 months, and between the technology of the cards advancing and the Hertz equipment, it's definitely a critical need for us in our department. So that would be basically retooling the rescue and replacing the tool in engine 33.
Thank you. Members, questions? Alderman Bencourt.
Just to be clear, that is funded right now in the capital budget?
Correct.
Yeah, the 170,000, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct.
No, I just want to make sure. So and that's going to give you what you need?
That will give us what we need, and talking to the salesman, of course, depending if you go with Home Ultra or Hearst, with the tariffs and everything, but that would give us carousels in the truck, like in the rescue truck or stuff like that. Would take out the old stuff, put in the new stuff, and that would cover actually everything. We would be in very good shape with that number.
Thank you.
Thank you. President Pro Tem, please.
Thank you. How are you, Chief? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Or condolences,
Yeah,
one or
either
the
way,
other.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Josh, could you go to their
us in
capital
a few
budget,
months.
please?
Talk to us in a few months.
So the thing that caught my attention is that I know that in the spec for Squad A, they're outfitting all new tools, as you were just describing, and they're spending about $100,000. Your request was for 198. It got shaved down to 170. I know that you might not be privy to what the committee over at Norwich Fire is specifying or who they're even dealing with, so I won't ask you a question pointed at that. But I'm wondering what your salesman is providing you, or your department, I should say, right? That, eclipses, or not eclipse, but exceeds what we're putting on a brand-new engine pumper, right, compared to what they're selling to you.
Right, and again, Joe, I don't know exactly what they're
Right.
getting, because the Rams that we have that go with all that, all those pumps would be going. So we'd end up going with electric Rams, and we have, like, I think it's 3 or 4 different sizes, combi tool, the cutters and stuff like that. So it's just, again, I don't think Squad A has all that stuff on it, and that's really the best I can tell you right now. I know it's gonna be more than what Squad A has, and again, you gotta take out the old stuff, put the new stuff in with the carousels and things like that. And that's really the best I can tell you as far as money goes.
Yeah, I certainly didn't mean, or, not intended to ask you an impossible question for you to answer. Matter of fact, I'll probably bring it up again at Public Safety while Chief Wilson's right there to say, well, this is what we're putting on our truck, because that's really the most interesting thing. To me, what are you putting, on your trucks? Maybe because of the highway work that we all know that you do, right? So what's the difference that we're spending an extra, it's, maybe $70,000+?
Again, because Hearst will have, a cutter, and there's 4 different levels of that cutter. So that's, again, I don't know what level cutter, what he's getting or anything like
Yeah,
that, so.
yeah. So, okay.
That's the best I can do for you.
Yeah, that was really the only thing in your capital that caught my attention. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Other members? Alderman Betancourt.
Just, also taking something out and replacing it off of existing vehicles more expensive than outfitting the new vehicle, I would think also, so.
Okay, so who's doing that work?
As far as I know, the way it was explained to me, it was gonna be the vendor.
Okay.
Members, questions? Alderwoman Gould.
Thank you for being here. You had quite a few other items that did not get funded. Is there anything that's a critical need, other than obviously Rescue 3?
I think a lot of it is stuff that we wanted to upgrade and things like that. As far as absolutely critical, I would say not for this year. We can hold off another year. I think that was one of the things John came up with this list, and for what he did, I think we can live with what we came up this year. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you. Other members' questions? Alderman Singh.
Thank you. Chief, can you explain a little bit about this station alerting system?
I just know the one that we have now is antiquated, and I think that it ran off a phone line and not the fiber lines. I'm not well versed in it, but I know it's just an older system that we've had, and we were looking to upgrade it. That's about the best I can tell you as far as that goes. That's all I know. I know it's just old enough, and we've had plenty of problems with it, and I think it had to do with phone lines and things like that, so we were looking to upgrade it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Chief, I'm looking at the total calls per year and the escalation and the growth. 22, 23, the actual was 624 listed. 23, 24 went to 790, and then 780, and now 900. Is there something that lends us to see that that's a trend that's developing? Is it the speed on the highways? What's going on?
And it's funny you say that because I think it was last December, we had the busiest month ever with I think almost 86 calls, and it wasn't flood related or anything. It was just one of those months, and the calls have just picked up. Medicals, are more abundant, and wrecks on the highway and in town have stayed about the same.
I noticed that if you combine the rescue, emergency, and vehicle accidents, it's half of the projections, 450 of the 900. And again, I know what people are driving on the highway. I go to see my grandkids, and it says 65, and if I don't do 75, I get knocked off the road. It's crazy. But I imagine it's no different in our own area through our towns.
Right. And, we come back in the morning from work, and then you'll see guardrails knocked down. So those are just the calls that we're responding to that we don't even get called to, when the state police come out. So there's obviously more accidents that happen that we don't respond to on the highway as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much, and congratulations again, accepting the responsibility. Appreciate you stepping up.
Just seeing that
Chief.
that the chief from EGP has arrived, and we'll get him right up into the breach here. You can sit right there.
Make yourself comfortable.
Just speak into the microphone, whatever microphone that was. What happened with it?
Feedback. Chief, thank you for coming, and thank you again yourself for stepping up, taking on the new responsibility. But you've been building on this your whole young life, so.
Oh,
We welcome you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. We had 8 calls, and we just have another one right now. I'm being covered right now, so we're good. But my name's John Coleman. I'm the new fire chief for East Great Plain. Is the microphone okay?
Yes.
Okay. So this is my first budget hearing, so please bear with me. But I'm going to go through some stuff. You guys have our budget in front of you? Okay. So our mission is to provide emergency services to our fellow citizens in a prompt, professional, and personal manner. We accomplish this by treating all persons we encounter as if they were part of our family. We strive to remain on the cutting edge of our chosen vocation in a caring and efficient way. We're the busiest volunteer fire company in Norwich, running over 1,000 calls in the year of 2024, and we are ranked one of the busiest departments in London County without an ambulance. Some community relations we did last year. We conducted a citizen-focused CPR and AED training free of cost for the citizens. And we also partnered with Home Depot to provide carbon monoxide and smoke detector giveaways to the residents of East Great Plain. And then we also did a very popular haunted house. On top of, there's a lot of more stuff that we did, but those are some key highlights. Okay, going to the capital budget. This is the procedure going through the capital stuff. Okay, so first up is station asbestos abatement. We're asking for $50,000 more. So with that, it would take care of all the asbestos in our ready room. The ready room is a room that our members can conduct training in. They can relax before an incident. So the room has asbestos glue in the panels, and we had very knowledgeable companies come out to give us quotes, and since our original $50,000 from last year, it exceeded past the $50,000, so we just need a little bit more. And the whole room has to be gutted. The panels go from the room up through the drop ceiling all the way to the attic. Asbestos can cause cancer, lung tissue scarring, and shortness of breath. And we need a special company to do this project since it's more expensive than normal construction projects. Okay, next is turnout gear. We're asking for $34,200 for 6 set of gear. Average set of gear goes around $5,000. That includes boots, gloves, pants, coat, hood, helmet, especially with all the new members joining the department. Plus we have members that gear is going to be expiring soon. 10 years is the limit, so. Excuse me. Okay, next is the tri-band radio, asking for $12,000. This would be added into engine 52. It's the only engine left in the city that does not have a tri-band radio. So this would allow communications on the TAC channels for structure fires because we just have the one base radio in the truck. So having 2 would be able to talk to dispatch and also to communicate to the TAC channels. That way members on scene, we could communicate. Okay, Ladder 5 radio headset, ask for $9,000. Ladder 5 is our first new apparatus out for most of our calls. Having headsets will offer hearing protection from the loud siren, enhanced radio quality, that way you can hear each other better, hands-free driving for the driver so they don't have to worry about reaching out for the radio, that way they can talk, and then you can also communicate with all the occupants in the truck. Okay. And last is the resurface of the parking lot. We're asking for additional $50,000 as well. After the start of the project, we had the city engineer develop specs, and that went out to bid, and it was a lot more than we were expecting. So we did cut down from his original, but 150 is what we're looking for that project, to complete the project.
Thank you. Members have questions at this time. President Pro Tem, please.
Hello, Chief.
Hello.
Nice to see you again. The question I'm about to ask is really more pointed at the city manager than you or your department alone. John, it's caught my attention now for this is now the 2nd year in a row, and it was part of our agenda items this afternoon was to reallocate some capital money towards parking lot improvements, I believe in Yannick. We have here EGP, asbestos abatement, which is important, no argument, right? But again, 6 figures, low 6 figures for resurfacing parking lots, neither which of those buildings are city-owned buildings. Meanwhile, Taftville, the chief sat here and talked about the roof has essentially failed, all right? I mean, when the membrane delaminates from the insulation, that's a roof failure, all right? That is a clear indication that the entire roof needs to be replaced. And I'm sorry, but in spite of what the chief had to say, it's not as simple as we're gonna throw some trusses up there and put up a new roof. It's not gonna be that. This is gonna be an entire engineering design exercise, and you know where I come down on that. But my issue tonight, and this is the second, unfortunately, John has to sit here while I tee off on the second of two major expenditures for capital on facilities, while our city-owned building, and that's really the most important thing, is that the Taftville Fire Department is a volunteer fire department, but it sits in a city-owned building on city-owned property. And yet, it's the last bell to be invited to the ball in terms of money, right? We all know that parking lot is, you can't even call it a parking lot. Part of it's a former basketball court, and the rest of it has been chewed up like yesterday's bubble gum. Again, I've already, mentioned the roof. The roof is a big issue. So I have difficulty spending the city's money on buildings that the city doesn't own, which would be fine. Really, the city has a long history of providing support to the volunteer department's facilities, even though they're owned by the volunteer departments or by some other entity. That would be fine if we weren't neglecting our own buildings. And I think that is exactly what's going on here. That we are neglecting the immediate needs in terms of the roof in Taftville, and we are neglecting the fact that you can't even call what they have a parking lot, and yet we're spending money in other places. That's troubling to me, and I don't know that you could really say anything to me. I would certainly respect and listen to anything you have to say, but I don't know that you could say anything to me that's going to make me feel better about the fact that that's the situation that we're in right now. And that is exactly what this budget is doing now, really for the second year in a row, because we all see it in front of us, right? That some of these projects are funded over 2 years. Last year where a part of the money was set aside, and now this year, the rest of the money, in most cases, is being set as or allocated in order to pull the trigger on these projects, while Taftville is sitting there with a failed roof and moonscape for a parking lot. I just felt like I needed to say that. I would certainly listen to whatever you want to say in reply, but I'm not demanding an answer from you. I'm just saying that it's my perspective of what this budget represents in terms of the capital.
Well, the only thing I would say is that we don't discriminate among departments on capital. The items that there was no request for the roof system. The chief went through our legislator to see funding for that. So we never received that as a request this year. So it's possible that he thinks he has a better chance of getting funded that way. So we did not receive that formally. The 600,000 is, we need to work on that. That is totally too much money for a parking lot that they need expansion on, but they're not even, we're not even sure exactly where it would be located. So the 600 is unacceptable. We haven't really sat down and to talk about what is acceptable. And finally, the other two major items, the kitchen hood replacement is another one that is open to debate depending on what the use of the kitchen is for. Is it for feeding the volunteers when they're there on long stints at the station, or is it for fundraising and other type of situation? We need to separate the two and then come up with a plan on that. So these have all been dialogue, but nothing has been resolved with that. As far as most of his major funding has come through the state. They put a large addition on, I don't know how many years ago, it was now probably 7 or 8, that was funded and then funded again because there was some overages thing. So the TAFA has gotten a lot of money. It didn't come all from the city, but it was being addressed in that area, probably in excess of $1 million if you count the expansion and some of the other items. So it's been coming through a different route than ours. The major ones are the parking lot for 600 and the air hood, the fire hood replacement, which we have to find a good rationale to have it that elaborate. If they have something that they're not cooking outside and just doing it internally, then they wouldn't need to require such a intricate system. But because they choose to do fundraising and everything, it raises the cost up. So I guess we're at an impasse on that one. I can tell you, so.
Couple things. So first of all, the chief did request $15,000 for architectural services for the roof, which everybody's going to hear me say it is not his place to be making that request. None of the, beyond identifying the need, all right, none of the chiefs or any of the department heads that are in city-owned buildings should be managing their own construction projects.
We're not recommending that.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm just saying that, but he did put money in his budget for those architectural services, and as I'm sure Alderman Bettencourt and Alderman Nash would agree to the fact that we've been hearing about the roof in Taft for quite some time. So it's not a new problem. But, you know, the fact that the fact that he's not requesting, that chief is not requesting the actual money to do the construction is, I would say, that's not surprising to me at all. But as I just said, he shouldn't even be requesting money to hire an architect. He's not hiring an architect. The city should be hiring an architect. We have a director of public works who's a licensed engineer. We have a city engineer who's obviously a licensed engineer, and then we have a whole bevy of engineering services in this town and in the region that can do this kind of work. It's just a matter of somebody making it a priority, to me, I, for one, believe that needs to happen, and it needs to happen right quick. The second piece of that is, I don't have a crystal ball, and we'll see what the legislature's going to do. But my sources in Hartford say that public safety projects are not going to be very high on the pecking order this time around when it comes to bonding or when it comes to the budget. It's public safety, although very near and dear to my heart, and in the top two, of the priorities that I believe that we should have right now is fallen slightly out of favor because other things have, other initiatives have taken their place in terms of the thinking of the people who are leading the way up there in Hartford. So I don't hold out a lot of hope for a lot of bonding money for public safety projects. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope to be surprised about what they do, but I'm not betting the farm on it by any stretch of the imagination. And in the meantime, this problem specifically with the roof, because never mind the fact that the roof protects the entire building and keeps it as a habitable space, but there are literally millions of dollars of city-owned equipment. And I know I'm not really trying to preach to you, John, but because I know that you know this, but there's millions of dollars sitting in there that's also being protected by that building, and all of it belongs to the taxpayers. So I know that I'm venting a little bit because I believe that this should be a much higher priority than it's being assigned. And in the meantime, not to dump on the other departments that own their own buildings, but they own their own buildings. They are 501c3s in their own right, okay? So why, I have difficulty reconciling in my own mind why we are ignoring one department that occupies a city-owned building and freely doling out money for projects and buildings that the city doesn't own. Other people sitting up here might have a different opinion about that, and it might be that we partially agree, but we don't completely agree. But Tafel needs to be straightened out. That building needs, and the site that it sits on needs to be corrected. It's my expectation, and I know that I have to tread lightly here because you have a role that is extremely important, and you have authority granted to you by the charter and by this council, and you do that pretty well. But and maybe I'm too invested in this so take that as I say this, right? But if it were up to me, I would be looking at that capital request that came out of Tafel and said, you've been talking about the fact that you need a new roof for a year. What are we going to do about that? Right? Before we talk about a new cascade system to replace a cascade system that might break someday, and if it does break, we might not be able to get parts. So we're going to buy a whole new one for $200,000 or whatever the number is, $100 and something thousand. Okay? I would be saying, what about your roof? What needs to happen with that? All right, and then make that move forward, because I'll admit to you, I'm a little bit upset because I'm just hearing tonight for the first time that the rubber membrane is delaminated, okay? I really just thought, I don't know about Mark and Bill, but I really just thought that it was leaks around the penetrations, that's one thing. But when you get total delamination, and again, I was hearing that tonight for the first time, and that really is a burr under my saddle, because that means that roof has been in a failure state for quite some time. And with that, I'll drop it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members? Alderman Beckcourt.
Since I will tell you, if you go upstairs in Tafel, I don't know, John, if you've ever been over there, but if you go upstairs, you'll see along the edge of the roof line and stuff, I mean, the ceiling tiles, and it's got drop ceiling up in that area, but they're all messed up and stuff from leak damage and stuff, and they've never been replaced or anything like that. So this has been going on. Like what Joe said, this is the first time I'm hearing about, delamination, although, I'm not a, roofing person, so I don't, although I've worked on them, I haven't, I don't know it like that. But it's a different, but I'm going to agree with Joe that this should be a priority. I don't think it's been handled. I will agree also that I don't think it's been handled right. That should have been going straight to Public Works, and it should be dealt with at that level. And it should be handled that way. It is a city-owned building. We do it that way with other stuff, as you well know. So I think maybe that, and particularly with something as important as a roof, it should be a priority. That's all. Thank you.
Well, let me just say one other thing, that, as I said before, you want to go through the levels of funding that you think you might get. And I'm certainly not going to eliminate the possibility of getting funding from the state, from the bonding fund. They've been very successful with that. Maybe this year is different. We'll see. We'll address it. The other part is to get the chiefs to think about relinquishing the control over their buildings to allow us to come up with replacement schedules. We do that for our own buildings, and I'm not talking about Taft-Ville Fire Department, talking about the buildings that we own, garage, city hall, et cetera, et cetera. And those are strictly the purview of the Public Works Department. When it comes to fire buildings, it has been initiated by the fire chiefs pointing out there's certain things. Now, ultimately, the Public Works gets involved anyway because they would have to, in some instances, write the spec. A good example, EGP, where eventually they wrote the spec and bid out the parking lot to make sure that it meted the needs of the parking lot, and it came in a little higher. So even though that building is not owned by us, we work with them. So we do work with them. The question is whether you're going to initiate it or not, and how that works. So I think that we need to take a look at it after we see if there's funding from the state. There's a number of departments that have asked through Kathy's connections with the capital budget and items at the state level to do that. And to be frank, some of them eliminate our decision-making process. They go directly to the state, and Kathy, being a good public servant to the city, goes and tries to retrieve that. So sometimes I don't know that until Kathy tells me that they came to them to ask for a particular item. As far as the roof condition, yeah, you heard it the same time I did. So we can work on that. But there's no rationale for why we would neglect our own city hall, our own city-owned building vis-a-vis buildings that are not owned by us. One other thing with the buildings not owned by us, we have to be realistic that none of the volunteer fire departments have the funds in place to do major capital items. And if we want them to exist, we need to support their capital efforts also, which we do.
Bless you.
So, I think that's all. Josh, anything?
I guess, the fire departments that are not owned by the city are serving a government function, so, and also protecting city-owned assets, so we kind of put them at a similar level when looking at their funding requests.
About the parking lot really quick.
Please.
Okay, our parking lot is in really rough shape. If you go over a section of it, the whole truck, all the trucks bounce. I could take anyone for a ride if you want to see what it feels like, but it could damage your assets in the long run because the truck's not supposed to, bend like that. So that's why we want to get this done soon. That way it prevents any damages from occurring. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Betcourt.
Just to be clear, this got off the track of you, of East GP.
I just wanted to say
So
that
I know, just personally, I don't dispute that, the work needs to get done. I'm sure it does. But there are other things out in the universe right now that, also require attention. And that's the kind of discussion that, we kind of got off base. So just so you're clear, we're not, saying that, disputing the need for you.
Yeah.
At least I'm not, anyway.
Thank you. Other members at this time?
No,
Yeah, please, Alderwoman Hayes.
I'm good with the East Great Plains presentation and what you've said. I think in listening to this discussion tonight about what is city-owned and non-city-owned, I think my suggestion might be that we need to have a real discussion, because what I don't see in here, and I know you're going to say, we're building brand-new schools, but I don't see any school building capital budgets in here as well. So I just think it's a larger conversation to talk
School
about.
budgets, you see the result of that in the debt service, but there's a whole, you're sitting right next to the chair. The chair of the school building committee is the one that manages the project with.
No,
their
I'm
consultants.
talking about the new, you're talking about the new schools. I'm talking about the existing buildings, whether they be schools, admin, or any other building, under Norwich Public Schools. They don't have a capital, this has been a long-term issue. They do not have a requirement to have a capital improvement section in their budget. And we don't do it on the city side.
Definitely not.
So that's why I said, I don't want to delay this evening. I think we need to have a whole conversation about city-owned buildings, including not just the City Hall building or under Public Works directly, but all of our city-owned buildings. That in the end, we are still required to maintain, upgrade, rehab. And I will tell you one of the areas, and it didn't come up tonight, because I found out through Senator Austin about what happened at the Hickory Street, the adult education, the bottom floor being flooded and impacting classrooms being shut down because of the flooding and the mold. And there was no provisions in the budget to address that. So it's just my suggestion is that we set aside some time to have a real conversation about city-owned buildings.
Thank you. Anyone else for our chief of these Great Plains? Alderwoman Gould.
Good evening, Chief. Thank you for being here. City manager has proposed a small decrease to your budget. Will you be able to work within that budget to meet the needs of the department for the next year?
Yes. Yeah. I know it's a decrease. It's going to be pushing it, but we will be able to manage off of that. So, but we also have to take into consideration all the things are, the cost of living is going up and all our supplies are going up as well. So we can make this work, but it's just a little bit low, but we can make it work.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? Chief, I guess we're all set. Thank you very much. This discussion kind of drifted a little bit, but that's what happens in a budget process. So I'll add my 2 cents. We can have discussions at great length about school buildings that are maintained by the school system. We have no authority to direct anything. State statute defines and separates. The only thing we have control over is the bottom line we provide in the budget. We can't tell them what they should fix, what they should ignore. We don't have that ability. And so that really rests with going to the General Assembly and changing the whole dynamics, and that's not going to happen. Certainly not in time for our budget adoption. But it is an interesting conversation, to say the least. Thank you.
Let me just remind everybody, we have the public hearing on the manager's budget on Wednesday, April 16th at 6, followed by manager, mayor, human resources, finance, treasurer, and assessor. Then it is possible that we will have to have an additional open public hearing. I don't know if we want to mention that will be talked about. Absolutely. That the way that the hearing was posted, there needs to be some expansion of it and clarification. So to cover us legally, we will keep the the hearing open to Thursday if needed. If the publication can make the correction, then we will need to do that. But if not, then we would have the opening or the rest of the public hearing that night, which if they are satisfied on Wednesday, I'm not assuming that we would have a lot on Thursday. But they would be at this point unless the city clerk can correct the posting, that it would be necessary to have it on Thursday. We'll get back to you on that as soon as we know if it changes.
The resolution that was adopted called for the public hearing on the 16th. When we raised the two public ordinances for the public budget and the tax levy, it was thought to have been stated that it would be on the 21st, the next council meeting. The intent was to follow the resolution, which called for it on Wednesday, the 16th. But based on that, our clerk did what she normally does, and she has to post those appropriately in the newspaper. And so that's where the difference comes in. She was seeking to see if she could pull back that notice. Not being accomplished, then we would be extending the public hearing to the 17th. The charter requires that the hearing on the city manager's budget must be held prior to the third Monday of the month, which is the 21st. So we are bound by the language of the charter. And so that's why John gave that explanation, and I gave a little bit more detail. But it's charter-driven. Thank you.